Asheville is home to about 95,000 people. Now, much of the city is filled with debris and cut off from the outside world after Hurricane Helen.
It's a thriving community now that's a recovering community.
Wiped the whole place out down there.
The road running through Asheville is a river.
There were so many trees that had gotten pushed over, they created dams. And then the water would build up and break that first, I'll say natural dam. And then it would flow down until it hit more and more. So when it finally got down into town, it was a 25, 30-foot wall of water that had just come into town where the creek would only ever hit 6 to 8 feet.
The Hurricane Helen came through, and what had happened is that it concentrated in the valleys and everything like that because of the amount of water.
There was a damage area, probably really bad destruction, 20 to 30 miles circle around Asheville. But the damage started 100 miles out.
But everybody around that had severe wind damage. A lot of trees went down.
You could see the electric conduits and the well caps of where houses had been.
I was really hurt by it because just the help that they weren't getting.
Pastor Doug had made a comment in the service where he said, we were talking about putting together a team to go down. We'd like to get some interest in it.
And the Lord just brought it upon my heart to do something.
As soon as he had mentioned those words, my wife Emily looked over at me and she said, "You're going to go, aren't you?" I said, "Absolutely." I felt called to go, and I did everything I could to make the trip happen.
The Lord put it upon my heart to use them skills for His glory, and that's exactly what I couldn't wait to get down there to do it.
The elders of the church sent Jason Fletcher and myself down to search out the matter, so we went down to take a look at what was going on in Asheville.
As you got closer and closer to Asheville, it got about 40 miles away. They had taken the highways and they'd cut the white line and the yellow line. So there was no shoulders, there was trees in the medians and the shoulders all over, and the destruction just continued to build the closer you got.
Quite a few were covered with tarps from tree damage and wind damage.
So without the GPSs, we would have had a really hard time knowing where we were going because all the road signs were gone.
So much of it that there's not enough people to help to do the repairs. So all the churches could really do at the moment was supplies plus put tarps over top of the houses. So it's like a blue tarp city all over the place. So that's what you see when you first show up. You see down trees, road signs completely ripped off, and then you see tarps over hundreds and hundreds of houses as you drive by.
It was actually 6 weeks after the initial events had happened. The initial hurricane came through, and every day the mountain was still shifting. There was new sections of the mountain letting loose, trees coming down. Every day we went back, the road was different, right? There was new sections that had pulling down, new houses on trees.
Many people were going down to help, but they were doing very little as far as being able to rebuild. They're just covering and doing jobs like that, or getting the trees off of houses, and then they're just putting a tarp on and then they're leaving. So the people are still exposed to the weather. So what we wanted to do was to go find somebody that the Lord would lead us to. We met the pastor of Asheville Calvary Chapel.
And so these are the services we can provide. Where do you think we can go be a help?
And he took us to Mr. David Ashburn's house, and that's the house where we went to help serve and rebuild his house.
He was kind of one of the forgotten areas, right? That outer circle, that outer 30, 40 miles. People that needed help but weren't in, I'll say, the real disaster zones. They really felt forgotten.
Nobody was helping him. The church was able to get the tree cut off the house, but it was still laying there, and put a tarp on. But he knew that winter's coming and there's no way that anybody would repair his roof, his kitchen roof, his bedroom roof, and the back of his house was crushed pretty good, and remove all the damage, put it back together. So we really wanted to be able to help somebody in that manner. That way he would be ready for winter.
I think he was very surprised, at the rate.
We could see how God's hand was in this, because first off, we didn't pick where we were going. We had an idea, myself, and I presented that to the elders, that we really wanted to concentrate on a person that we could actually put them back together, because that's not what's happening down there. It's just recovery and try to status quo. He has been living there for probably well over 50 years. He was married for 50 years, he told us, and his wife passed away about 3 years ago, had no children whatsoever, and just a nice old gentleman that the church knew, the community knows him because he's very involved, and even the township knew him so much that they even stopped by, told us they knew that we were there, and they were very thankful that we could help him because he could not do it himself. They just knew that there was nobody else was going to be able to help him, at least for quite some time. Everybody that went, everybody had different talents, which was really cool. And so everybody just jumped in. We had to have a lot of patience because you have to wait on people to get their job done before you can start your job. People had to run to get materials that we didn't have because we ran into termite damage. That really slowed things down. But everybody stepped up to the plate and kept pushing. And then when we got back to Airwood, which was where we were staying, that Calvary Chapel of Myrtle Beach has, we were able to relax, do a Bible study, and just enjoy the conversation just as brothers in Christ, knowing that we were doing something for the Lord, but we were doing it and we were learning each other.
I showed up, and in 20 minutes, it was like we had been working the entire week together. It helped to build that bond.
And from start to finish, remove his tree and take his house apart and then put it completely back together. So that's what this team was doing.
And he kept thanking me and the rest of the guys, and I just told him, man, thank the Lord.
He really needed somebody to come and care. And so that's who the Lord laid us upon his heart. And he asked me, he said, why would God even care about me? Because I'm such a little blip in the world. And I told him, I said, are you a born again Christian? And he said, yes. And so I said, well, then you're precious in God's eyes. So we didn't choose you. We went to the church, asked who we could help. Here we are. Can we help you? Can we put take your house apart and put it back together? And he said, I'd be crazy to say no. He said, well, of course. He really, just to appreciate the fact that we were actually there, but everybody spent time just stopping and talking to him and just encouraging him. And he was kind of glowing, I have to say. It's about 90% done now. He's got a new roof. The back of his house is on, the side of his house is on. Sheetrock's in the room. The heat's back on. So he is right there where, he's sealed up for the winter. And so we'll be going back to finish that soon.
That first night going in, there was frustration, anger. I would never say really fear. I always felt like, we were protected. But not looking at any of the news coverage and media of what had gone down there and all, it was a very humbling experience, and very, very glad to have the community we have here and what we're blessed with here to see what can happen.
Down there in Asheville, we were able to talk to the neighbors, and they knew that it was a church coming to help him, and that we were Christians and that we loved the Lord. And they were thankful to see us come and help him because they're neighbors, but they physically weren't able to really do anything either. But here comes this crowd of guys that just come and swarm this house, and they watched. And you know what? What a great testimony that it's the brothers and sisters in Christ helping others. And I think that's what Jesus called us to do.
The whole thing was a blessing to me, and definitely a good experience for me, as far as the church and the team, and bonded our friendship and our relationship through Christ.
I think it was very comforting, not only just to see people come in and fix their immediate needs, but also to help with their spiritual needs as well.
This church supported this, from the get-go by giving clothing, and we took down shoes, we took down coats, and we took down blankets. When we got there, they were so blessed because it was new, all new. And so they were able to just put it right into their pantry and be able to give it out. So as a church, it's just great to see everybody come together to serve the Lord financially and just, serve to the least of these. And there's people that need help, and we were able to do it. So to God's glory.